Hi, guys, and welcome to another Win with Winners. I am not going to lie, I got a little bit lazy and I am moving. There's a lot going on in my life, so I have pre-recorded a day in the life of Open to Close. This is a question that a lot of people ask me. Do you have any content or a video as to how you use or what Open to Close looks like after it's set up and kind of how my day would look like within Open to Close? So here is a brief overview, and I might do a part two here to focus on the more advanced features, but this is going to be a great glimpse as to how it all works within Open to Close. I hope you enjoy it. Hey there, in this video, I'd like to do a quick day in the life in Open to Close. I'd like to start this off by saying that all of this is 100% customizable. So you're able to create your intake form exactly the way you want it. You are able to bring in the fields that you want. Any email test templates, obviously, we are able to import our own data, but the special pieces are kind of what happens in the background and the different connections. So I just wanted to do a quick day in the life so that you can kind of see what it looks like to use Open to Close. So at the very beginning of the day, I always recommend starting with your critical tasks, right? Once we come in here, this here is the properties view, and this is your main view to have a bird's eye of your current transactions. We can filter these so that we're just seeing pending in here, and we can create different tables as well as smaller segments of that table for whatever it is that we'd like. We have a few options on filtering. We can filter by the client type, the status of the transaction, any contacts. So we can say, I want to see this particular agent's, a specific team and a specific user. And that is a team in your business or a team user from your business. So you can also do it by a date range. Let's just say you wanted to see everything that has closed between a certain date. You'd put the date range here, and then you would edit this to change what date it's looking at, because right now it's looking at the date it was created. So we can completely customize these views as well as add the columns that we want to display. And we can also export this as a CSV. If you wanted to use this as, an update to your agents or move this data to a different tool, like Airtable, for example. A lot of people are using Airtable for reporting and other invoicing, other things. So you could always export this and copy and paste into something like Airtable, so that you are updating certain fields, maybe on a weekly basis. So I wanted to start there. This is the main view. You would probably come here first things first, but we've got a lot of things that are due. Do we want to start working through them? Probably not. We want to work on those critical tasks first, because let's just say it's Monday morning and we also have 5 contracts to submit. So with the first thing, I always recommend creating a view for critical tasks, and that way you can go ahead and knock out anything that's critical for the day or tomorrow, and you can tag these things as critical, and we're able to kind of go through those. And once we've gone through our critical tasks, I would probably check emails and make updates to the important things, but I'd probably start off with getting my intakes in. So you're able to create as many intake forms as you need. This is really messy because this is what I use for all of my training and coaching. So I'm going to just select this one here. This is my buyer selling pending intake. I made this one very small just so that we can go through the motions, but I do want to talk about the features that are tied into how all of this connects together and how we can make this work. So this choose team, you're able to create teams within your company. This can be per state. Let's just say one person handles Arizona. Brenda's team consists of 3 people, and she handles multiple states, but she has a set of agents in those multiple states. So we're going to create a team for Brenda. And then we want to make a separate team for listings so that we can kind of sort things and use this listing team to have multiple members assigned to different things inside of listings. And then another one, and then maybe just transactions. Just like we have listings, maybe we'll have a general transactions. So with this, we can get very specific, and by assigning it to a team, anyone in that team are the only ones that are going to be able to access this transaction. So it is very focused. They won't be able, they won't be cluttered with everyone else's stuff. It'll be a very clean look with only the transactions that they are assigned to. Now, the team user is basically the lead person on this. If you have multiple team members, you will have them all show up. But because I'm the only team member under transactions, it's only showing me. If I were to go to AZ team, it would show anyone in the AZ team, and we would select the lead TC on this. Now, assigning your agent will allow this property to also show in their agent portal. So this is important if you are sharing the portal with them, where they can access all of the contract details that you customize, that you give them permission to see. They'll be able to see all of that data, either on the web or from the mobile app. You'll add the address here. I'm just going to do a random address. You'll want to select it because it autofills the address fields here. But this here actually acts as the name of your transaction. The way that I like to do it is I went ahead and selected the right address so that it auto-populated down here. But then I would go in here and update this so that it was the format that I like my transaction to be named. And that is seller last name, and then just a separator here of some sort, buyer last name, and then the address. So with this now, we've got a whole new way, a title for our contract, as opposed to just being the title. I'm sorry, the address. So with this, when we, in email templates, when we add the merge field for our contract title into maybe the subject line, we can have it say EMD receipt space dash space seller to buyer address every single time. So that's a cool feature that I like to do here at this point, instead of trying to remember to do it within the transaction. And now we've got our fields. We've got multiple selects, we've got single selects, and we have all of the other traditional text field, date fields, number fields, all of those traditional things. And the cool part of this intake form, which is very unique to open to close, is that we can not only condition, which that's something that we are fairly used to if we're coming from any other form, where when you click an option, a field or section shows up. So in this case, I've got a condition that says if HOA is equal to need, show me the HOA fields so that I can fill those out. So I'll go ahead and click that need, and you'll see down here that the community association details has popped in so that I can answer those questions. I can make them optional or required to fill out. So it's a super easy process of, not having a humongous form. We can do the same thing for inspections and everything else, where our form is very small at the beginning, but as we enter in these status fields and let it know what's going on with our transaction, it's going to be popping things in at the bottom for us to submit. So I'll go ahead and pause this for a second. I'm going to add some of the details here, and then I'll show you what it looks like at submission. Okay, so I've put some test data in here just to show you that now, once I've submitted this, we're going to go into the transaction. But because I selected need, I have now triggered the section for HOA to also come into my property. So not only can we customize the way the form looks, but we can also customize the way that the transaction looks, the property looks once we get in there. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this. It'll bring us to a simple, this is just going to be to review it. And it'll bring us to this success page, which you can copy and paste this document email address. And this is where if anyone emails, if anyone emails this email address with an attachment, it'll actually add it to our system. So there is an approval process that happens with these submitted documents, but it allows you to share this with other people and have things automatically sent in. I've also used this for integrations. So with the DocuSign integration, you can add this email to DocuSign as the like sent you email or something like that, and actually have things set up to be added to here once it's been submitted. So just like, in the steps for DocuSign, this person signs, and then this person views or gets a copy. That gets a copy is going to be this email address. So it's a really cool email. I would copy this, and you could even have a field within Open to Close here that has this email so you can auto-populate some things. So I will go ahead and close this out now. And within, I come back to Open to Close, and you would think, okay, now it's added to my properties, but there's actually a whole approval process before we make this a real transaction. And that approval process is 100% customized by us. So I'm going to go ahead and go to where they live until they are approved, and that's in the submitted forms here. You'll see the seller last to buyer. I'll go ahead and open that. And now we're going through an approval process. This right here, I've just reminded myself to add the contacts to the contact tab. So I'm going to go here to the contacts tab and either search existing contacts or create a new contact. Then I can come back to my approval form, complete this, and it'll go to the next. Upload the contract documents to the Docs tab. Go to the Docs tab. We can actually apply a template of placeholders. So let's just say I'm going to put B transactions here. So for buyer transactions, we need this here. But I also need maybe the buyer here. This is all transactions. Let's see what's in here. We can apply multiple, and now we have these templates where we can upload the documents into them and have them attached to our email templates. So these placeholders are a great guide to make sure that we have all of the things, and you'll notice these buttons do some special things as well. So at the very beginning of a transaction, we should probably already have the buyer agency agreement and the rights, right? So we can default these to be missing upon intake so that when we add this, they're marked missing, actually counting for us the documents that we have missing right up here. There are a few other places you can see this count, but we'll focus here on the transaction. We're also able to customize these buttons. So I've added one here, uploaded to Google Drive. OTC does integrate with Google Drive, And we can either manually do this, or we can set it to automatically, every time we upload a document here, automatically add it to that Google Drive folder. So we can choose and create folders and assign them to transactions and have those things happen. So we can customize those buttons like I mentioned, and I'm going to go ahead and go into the file buttons, and we just add that abbreviation. Let's say we wanted to track when the buyer's seller sign. Buyer S for seller. And now we've got two new buttons that you can see right here, buyer, seller. We can reorganize them if we wanted. But that is now allowing us to track where we are with that signature. So the seller, that's not something we need from the seller. So we might just turn this green, but it is something we're going to need for the buyer, right? So we might have that red. This doesn't control anything but our visual of where we are with that. And we can even customize things once we receive that document. We just toggle this and it goes ahead and completes it. We can customize how that reacts down here in that same file buttons button. So that's with the documents. Really, there is so much tied to this, but that is a great kind of overview. And I'll go back into the approval process. So I will update that. Now, other things that you would probably do during this approval process is go back into the defaults and settings. And this is something I like to put in the reminders. And I like to make sure that we've got our default email signature selected. You can add multiple email signatures, send mail as your agents and other emails. You can set that up. And then you have multiple email. I'm sorry, did I say email signatures? I meant email address, because these are the email signatures. We can assign a specific email signature for our agents, and every email that goes out from this transaction is going to be sent from this email with this email signature. So there are a few other settings that you can apply to transactions. You can add date templates, API field maps. There are a lot of integrations, more so than any tool out there. And I will be happy to touch on that in just a minute, but let's go ahead and approve this now. Once we approve it, and you'll actually see here, let's see. Because, and maybe I didn't double check that trigger in the background to see if I even set it up to say if it's HOA, bring in the community association. I don't know if I set that up, and I don't think I did because it didn't come in, but it would have brought in all of the field sections that you actually need. That's going to clean up this whole entire thing. So you're only seeing the fields and field sections that pertain to this transaction. You're not getting lost in any of these. And you can also minimize those so that you're just seeing the things that you need to. But what I used to like to do is I always kept the intake details closed, and this would live at the top. And as things closed out, the inspection period ended, everything was satisfied and good, I'd close that out. Home warranty is NA. I probably wouldn't have had this come in because this was a test intake form. It was probably not set up that way. But let's just say there was a home warranty and I completed it. I went ahead and sent it out. Everything was good. I would collapse that, which would leave me with my closing section and all of the other fields that I had. So it just helped with kind of keeping that clean. And you can always go to manage or edit any one of these sections from here as well. So with the different ways that we can kind of use the transaction here, of course, we're going to have our task pipeline. We have our task templates that we set up ahead of time. And let me see if I can just get this is a seller task template. I don't know if this actually has a bunch of stuff in it, but yeah, there you go. So we are able, because there aren't any dates attached, these are in unscheduled, but if I had put dates in it, this would have been our task pipeline. It would show us the scheduled tasks and then down below the unscheduled tasks. Unscheduled tasks are things that either don't have dates assigned to them or are child tasks, where a scheduled task needs to be completed in order for this to even show due. So that's a unique feature that is definitely super helpful when it comes to trying to get trails of processes as opposed to things being due by dates. I want to, before I create the invoice, maybe the admin needs to confirm the price. So confirm price with owner, complete that task. This one will show up for them. All right. Now with emails, we are able to manually send emails, or we can attach emails to a specific task so that when we complete the task, it either sends automatically or it launches it for us to review before we send it. So I'm going to go over to the email tab to show the manual way. You would just apply a template here. And I do want to get into some cool things about emails. So I'm not, I will go ahead and put this in here. But I just like you to know that we are able to do some pretty cool things when it comes to what shows up in the email. They're called smart blocks here in OTC, and it allows you to condition verbiage to show up. So let's just say, for example, um, let's just say this wasn't a financing transaction, but they did want an appraisal. I could make it so that this only comes in if the funding type is equal to financing. And that will make this whole entire bullet point go away and show this list of documents to just be this one, the confirmation that the appraisal has been ordered. So what that looks like in the background, I'll go here and I'll do this one here. So this one's actually looking at documents, whether we've attached a document or not to a specific placeholder. So this is saying, I'll go ahead. Actually, this isn't a great example because there are smart blocks within this smart block group, and I don't want to get into that. So let's get a good sample here. This buyer intro to client should be good. So the writing in blue here is the conditional stuff. We don't always have an inspection. We don't always do financing, and we don't always have an appraisal. We don't always have the contact information for the title company. So with open to close, we can create codes, basically just like these merge fields. And you'll see this one right here. If I highlight it and hit this SB button for Smart Block, it's going to expose what is going to show should whatever condition be met. This condition is if the field bins are due, which is the buyer inspection notice, seller's response, or repair request, is not blank, basically saying the inspection is not waived, show this. So this here ends up being inspection contingency ends that date. But if it's waived, I would create a whole nother smart block that said, if the bins are due is blank, show this instead to show that it's waived. So it's very easy compared to, let's say, something like Airtable or creating a formula for this. It can be difficult, especially with such a big email template, right? We have to squeeze things in there and figure that out. So it's great with open to close because all we do is create this piece and then add the merge field for that into the email template where we want it. It does get a little tricky with formatting, but definitely one of those huge features that you can't find anywhere else, and you definitely can't find anywhere else as easy as you can do it here in open to close. So I'm going to go back to, I've already submitted it, right? I approved that transaction, so it's no longer in submitted. I've got to go to my transaction, my property table. That's going to be our transaction pipeline. So now let's look for that transaction. It's down here at the bottom. We've got the emails. We can manually send those. We can manually change the, we can schedule these out. We can attach documents. We can attach PDFs or PNGs, anything that we have in file storage. We're able to basically store flat documents to attach to different email templates. For example, you might have a utility disclosure that you send to the seller at one point in time so that they can list out all of their utilities to send to the buyer. That's just a fill in the blank document. You can add it here, it'll attach, and they can download it. So you can send that off, and this does host all of your scheduled emails, all of the emails that have been sent, and property emails. So when it comes to the next one here, triggers, these are email triggers. I'm not going to dive into this, but these are basically triggers in the background. We're able to do a lot of cool things here, super advanced features. Feel free to reach out if you have any specific questions, but we're basically able to condition certain things, emails to come in, and this is kind of where they live so that you can see what's ready to go out. What's scheduled to go out, what's still in process, what's incomplete, and some more features here. So I won't go too deeply into it, but that is where you'd find all of your triggers. If you are using the texting features, you can have a list of the text messages sent back and forth here. This is a new feature. Before, we really didn't know where it went because all of the text messages lived here. So it looks like we're able to now assign a specific property or send from that specific property and have a list of all of our text messages in one place where we know what was replied to. We talked about documents, we talked about contacts, but I did want to jump into a really cool feature. Excuse me, I had a really bad cough. A really cool feature within our contacts. So there is something here called contact connections. We can create a contact for maybe their assistant, for example, and we can attach their assistant to their contact so that every time we add, let's say, one of our agents, their personal assistant is automatically added to the transaction. Now, in something like Georgia, we have an attorney. We have the transaction is assigned to an attorney, but there's a pre-closer and there's a closer and there's a scheduler. So we can add all of those people under the attorney. So every time we add that attorney, all of their office people are going to be added. So that's a really cool feature with contacts that is very unique to open to close. You can add transaction notes. You can create a one sheet. This here is just a one pager of everything you have going on in the transaction. Again, these are also 100% customizable. And this is probably not going to look very pretty, but let's do a preview. So it would have all the dates and everything separated by sections. You can add documents. You can show the documents that you can show only the documents that are missing. You can completely customize how this ends up showing for your agent or the title company or the client. This can go to anyone, and you can even schedule this to go out once a week or however you'd like that to happen. You can automatically have this go out. So that's a really cool feature. You can track commissions, and they do dial in pretty heavily. So you can track commissions and also kind of see exactly what's supposed to go where, and you can even create, and it doesn't look like there's a way to preview it, but you can create that CDA. So this is a really cool feature if you've got some complicated commission structures. This is an easy way to kind of have it all in there. And then we've got a follow-up boss integration, DocuSign, MoveEasy, SkySlope, Dotloop, Brokerment, and you are able to kind of work in the background. It does integrate also with Stripe for you to receive payments through here. You can't really customize the experience. Really, it's just making payments. You can see the activity of the property. It doesn't really go into specifics on what happened. So I'm sure one day they plan on building this out even more because it doesn't show us what was updated. And then we've got our notifications for the transaction, and then we can update our the access. Which one of our team users can access this? Which agent can access this? And which client portal user can access this? Yes, there's also a client portal. It's not as detailed or pretty or as functional as the agent intake form, but you can create these client portals for not only clients, but people that want to oversee multiple transactions, let's say on a team. So if a team owner wants to see all of the transactions that their buyer and seller agents have under, we would add that team owner as a client portal user, and this would make it so that they see every single thing. We can even, like we talked about with the contact connections, we can add the owner, that team leader, as a contact connection for the agent, so that every time we add the agent, the team leader is added, and we can also say that we want to automatically send the client portal invite to this contact. So it's going to do that automatically without you even thinking about it and keep that team owner in the loop. So really, there are a lot of cool buttons, things that are hidden in plain sight. We've got a contact drawer, which literally just pulls out all of our contacts. So we have everything here. I don't have any contacts in here, but you could even copy and paste each one of the pieces of data. That's a very nice functional way of doing things. And you can even pull out the files. So we can have the file drawer. Which ones do we have listed there? Really cool features here. So we've onboarded, right? We've done our intake. We approved it. We started sending intros and started managing those tasks. And we come back here. So this is also unique. This health bar allows us to see those priority and do things within each property. So we're able to completely control which contacts show up here. And that's simply by going into the contacts and prioritizing them. Let's just say I'm going to put them as a high priority. And now when I go back into here, is that even yes, that was it. She is now listed here. So we could just by default prioritize all of our contacts and have them in a nice list here for us. We can do the same thing, prioritize fields where we are seeing certain fields because we want them top of mind, seeing certain notes, seeing certain documents that we're still chasing for signatures, so that when we open this up, it's showing us exactly what is going on in that transaction. So this is where most of your time will probably be spent because we've got our tasks that are due today or past due. We can complete them. Once we complete them, the email pops up so that we can send that email. This is where we'll do a lot of that stuff. So this is a really cool feature. And like I mentioned, that document count for the missing documents also shows up here. And again, we can completely customize the way that this looks. This here is a really cool feature people overlook as well. If you click this here, it's going to give you shortcuts to a lot of different things here. We can even pull up the entire field stack with that button. So we're never really going in and out of transactions. We're just trying our hardest to stay at this level and grab the things that we need. That contact drawer, the file drawer. We can access all of the data within that property from this little hamburger icon. So that is kind of the day in the life. The task pipeline, we talked about creating different little snapshots because we created that critical one so that at the beginning of the day, we can knock out our critical tasks and then maybe we can narrow it down to do today. So also, if you don't really like that table view, that is another option to set up for yourself to create this Kanban view of your task management and go through them. So I will jump into the apps and APIs. We did talk about that. And I did want to point out that DocuSign is only for, I want to say scale plan. Don't quote me on that. But DocuSign does have some some restrictions on it plan wise, as well as the API tokens and webhooks and API here. So everything else here is standard. You do get with open to close, but for some special ones, you may need to be on a higher plan. We do have the calendar here. It syncs with our calendars. Google is the strongest integration. You do want a Google Workspace account. It does not work with with Gmail. You can add your Gmail as a non-API, but then your sent emails aren't being recorded in your Google account. So highly recommend that you go with Google. They do support Outlook, but I don't think that the calendar works with that. It's a very limited, you can send emails basically with Outlook. So there are so many things to customize and learn, but I really just wanted this to be a high level, hey, what does living in OTC look like? What does that transaction process, what are those key features that will kind of make me realize that, I do need open to close? If you are at that level, it's definitely the most automated, the most advanced transaction management software. And I'm happy to answer any questions. So let me know if you have anything specific that you'd like answered, and I am happy to go over it with you. Looking forward to seeing you around, and I hope this was helpful.